Well, yeah, we'll get with that because I think that would be something awesome. It's crazy because you're like talking, and this is how you know when you get to that place of awareness, and you're like already having the fucking conversation and shit
I
about
know.
stuff.
And
And I'm
that's how
like,
I was when I heard about it. And I was like, oh man, I gotta like do this today because I
like
want
real
to do it.
shit. I'm already having the conversation. I could see my other selves and shit. We're already having a conversation, like.
Yeah.
But I feel it. I feel that because we're always at war with ourselves, and that part of us that we think is bad, or we think it's just pieces of us that have always heard these things. I was having a conversation with my daughter, and a lot of people will you're going to come into a lot of people who don't believe in what you believe, or not necessarily believe, but their fears are projected onto you,
Hmm.
and you got to kind of just take it with a grain of salt and not let it hit you. And the only reason it hits you is because of the shit you were told when you were younger, or because it's like, why can't you create this life? Why can't you do this? Why can't you? What's really stopping you? Nothing but yourself.
Yeah. And I think what's hard is sometimes, and I hope everybody listening really, really takes this in. Sometimes you prove to yourself what you were told when you were younger
Mm,
because because you believe it. So for instance, I was always told I lived in a fantasy world. And if I only had to work with that one memory, it'd probably be easier. But because that was projected onto me, I really did. I went through a marriage where I was just unknowingly, like, apparently, I didn't know anything about him. I was living in a fantasy world. I thought a relationship was something that it was not. I thought he was
right,
something that he was not. And so now when I'm working on this part of myself, I'm even more in resistance because I'm like, oh, no, no, no. It's not just that they said it. You really are in a fantasy world because look, you didn't see that.
right, right.
And that has been the hardest part for me to overcome is because I did put myself in that fantasy world. So now I have to work with, you know, undoing that and having that
Right.
trust in myself again.
That's a huge one.
Yeah.
Trust in self. That will be a
Yeah.
barrier. And I think that's many levels. Definitely not going to happen in like a few sessions. That trust
So
in self. I'm still dealing with the trust in self because of just
I actually think that that is going to come up at Soul Quest.
yeah, yeah. That's one of it's been besides unworthiness and abandonment, those 2 right there. Self-trust has been the other because I allowed, the same thing, you come to a place where you understand shit happens in life. Horrible shit happens in life. And I go back to my 15-year-old has been the roughest time period to heal. I always say recently this year, I just got her to kind of smile. And that's from after several different types of healing sessions with different type of facilitators. And I just got her to where she can smile, but she's not there yet. And I think a lot of people to forget to tell you that your younger versions are probably not going to trust you during any of this. And it was crazy because I was watching Christina, I think her name is Lopez, or
Yeah, the Heart
you
Alchemist. I love her.
yes, I fucking love her, and she had one of her videos popped up on my feed because that's how Spirit is yesterday, and it actually she had mentioned that part. She was like, "People don't realize this, that when you first see the younger versions, and it doesn't matter if it's 5 years ago, your version of yourself, that version is not gonna trust you because you let yourself down in many different instances, right?" And so I would be so irritated with my 15-year-old self. Like, why the fuck are you still mad at me? Like, why are you still shut down? And that's where I had to kind of like, you know what? Fuck it. It is what it is. I'm just going to have to kind of allow her to be where she is, and allow us to kind of go through this hurt. Even though I don't want to stay in this shit, I'm going to have to be there and just console her. And so I learned how to just console my 15-year-old. Not necessarily do I need to tell her anything, just be the support she didn't have, because she didn't have support when she lost the baby. She didn't have support when she lost the baby daddy right after, right?
Right.
So I learned that just to sit there and witness it was everything, just to be that support. And I think some facilitators drop the ball on that. where we're missing terminology that people really need working through this shit.
Right.
You're it's not gonna be that easy. Those younger selves are not gonna fucking forgive you. They're not gonna be so willing to just jump in, "Hey, let me fucking," you know what I mean? Like, especially if you have not shown up for yourself. If you've had a stream of abusive situations, your younger self is gonna be like, "Hey, why should I trust you?
Right.
You keep going down the same fucking path. Like, really? Why should I give you that moment?"
Exactly. Yeah.
That's where the accountability where you have to say, "Okay, maybe I need to own up to my own shit of being in this place." You
Right.
know? Or if you don't put yourself first, right? You kind of have to say at some point, my younger versions are not going to be so open to just heal. And I think that's why people go into it and don't even see anything. They don't realize that you really are at a stage where you're going to have to keep doing this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It definitely takes more than one visit. And when I do shadow work sessions with people, I tell them, okay, for the next week, every single day, go back to where you left that person, that inner child of yours, the one that we worked with that day, and just hang out with them. Just
Right.
know that they're not alone. And you do that like and then, I tell them, like, okay, when that trigger comes up, that is that specific age of your child calling out for you. Go visit her again. That seems to help. Yeah. So it's just definitely not a one time thing.
Right, right. So, sorry, my Aries is being an oosh in the background. She does not give two fucks about the podcast. um so going back into layers of just kind of where I know for me, I start at trying to see what's kind of like the biggest thing that comes up for them and kind of start there.
Yeah.
But I know for me, I kind of allow them to bring it up. What is, because some of the stuff is like very obvious shit to work on. And once
Right.
you kind of get through that, then more shit is gonna come up, after that. But like the main stuff that comes up of why do you feel like this or why do you feel like that? It's crazy because I was pissed off and mad at my apartments, right? Because my car got towed. And recently they decided to enforce a parking, and hand out parking permits. But for some reason, I didn't get one and I just renewed my lease, right? And so I'm like kind of pissed off and mad. Like, what the fuck? I just did my lease. No one told me. Then I go into like one of my emails because I have a fucking billion emails, right? Yeah, there's an email about it. And I'm like, you guys can't tell me any other way. Like, it has to be a fucking email. So I'm pissed off at them, right? Go like I really just want to go off. And it's crazy because by the time I take a lift to go get my fucking car, pay $150 to get my car back, right? And I'm so pissed sitting in this fucking office waiting for them. Somebody else is being helped. And I can feel it in my body. And I'm like, luckily, I'm waiting on someone. And the whole time I'm there, like, why are you so fucking mad right now?
That is the key, though. The fact
Right,
that you're self aware.
right,
A lot of people just sit there and they're just angry and they fuel
right,
it. But the
right,
key is to catch yourself. That is the
right.
definition of self awareness.
Right. I was sitting there like, wait a minute, I'm feeling this shit in my whole body. Why the fuck am I mad right now? What is going on with me that I'm this mad at them, right? Okay, I had to pay 150. Okay. Like, okay, it took me out of my day. Okay, I had to go do this, that, and the third. All right. What is really bothering me? And it's the fact that I wasn't paying attention either. You know what I mean? I didn't do my part when I signed my lease. I didn't even fucking ask about a registration or anything. I can't put it all on them.
Right.
You can be mad all you want to be like, you fucking people, and because of you, but it's like, wait a minute. Did I do everything on my part? Is it really all on them? And so I just stayed quiet and I was like, I'm coming to pick up a parking pass, even though I was irritated as hell. And she was like, you got your registration. I handed her the registration, but I didn't say anything. I'm just breathing,
Yeah.
breathing and releasing because I'm like, who am I truly mad at right now?
Right. Right.
Myself, because this probably could have been prevented if I had been more aware or paying attention to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that sucks. That's hard.
Right, and because I saw them paint and create visitor parking, and it was like, "Oh, shit," they're you know what I mean? But it didn't dawn on me, like, maybe I should call them because you never know, right?
Yeah,
So, it's just one of those things where I love the awareness part of everything because once you bring in the awareness, you can't go back. Everything you do, you start to question, "Why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling in this moment?" It's not that it's bad, it's not that it's right or wrong, it's just getting to the point of where is it coming from? This
yeah,
no situation should really damage us. Now, someone gets killed in front of you, yes, feel that shit, go through it. You're gonna, you know what I mean? Someone's being murdered in front of you. Of course, there's things that are really gonna, affect you. But on the day-to-day scale, like even if someone cuts you off and you're like driving, road rage, it's like, why are you so fucking pissed off in this moment?
and that's like a good example. Normally, if you were to ask yourself in that moment, why did that piss me off? You would say something like, well, the audacity of him. Why would
Right,
he think that he's more important than me?
right,
And that might hit a wound of you feeling like other people have always put themselves before you. You don't
right,
feel important. So now
right,
you're angry when someone validates that to you.
right,
So you have to go back and be like, well, when's the first time that I didn't feel important? And then
right,
those little things just naturally won't bother you. You'll be
right,
like, oh, this guy's a dick. Whatever.
right. Or I stayed up too late. I missed my alarm. I'm already fucking late to work. This person cuts me off. You're mad. Who are you really mad at?
Yeah.
Yourself.
Right.
I think it's just that, and I don't think there's a lot of people that I'm not gonna say they don't teach it well. I just think that the way people word things, I think it goes over a lot of others' heads and what people think shadow work is, and this clear definition of shadow work. And there's step one, step two, step three, step four.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I never believed it's like you could do these steps in this order and you're gonna be okay.
Right. Right. It's going to be different for everyone.
Right. Everybody's different. Everybody's path is so different. So how important is it for you to either identify or bring an awareness to your client or who you're working with about their ego?
Well, the first thing that I will tell people, which is something that I actually didn't always know, is that your ego is not bad. Your ego is
Mhm.
what has protected you thus far.
Mhm.
So it's a matter of appreciating it and then basically being like, but you can like take a few days off now for the rest of my life, actually. But
Right.
something
Get in the
like,
back seat.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, I mean, ego is it's looked down upon because that's where people, if you're shallow or um, you're after money, people will be like, oh, that's their ego. They're very egotistical or they're materialistic or whatever the case may be. Um, but those are all just tendencies that come about from whatever you have suppressed, whatever your
Right.
trauma has been. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just an effect, it's a protective shield.
Right. I'm like, I'm like in the beginning, people harp on ego. And I do understand not to be too far to the left, right, with the ego. But I also feel like you have to have that confidence of the ego to even do half the shit that you want to do. Like to
Yeah.
step out of your norm, it takes that ego. It takes that part of you to believe that you can fucking do it. Because if you don't have that, so I think a lot of people, I think education on ego is important too. Of just what you said, it's not a bad thing. It can be bad, but it's not a bad thing. We all have an ego. Because the minute you say that, and people are like, "Ugh, I don't have an ego."
Right. Your personality is your ego, like everything.
Right.
Like,
It's like, wait,
the
I didn't
point of
say
the
you were
ego,
egotistical.
the real point of the ego is to accomplish your soul's desires. The
Mhm.
issue is when your ego gets I want to say traumatized, but when your ego is not healed. If you can
Mhm.
heal your ego, then your ego could work in balance with your soul to accomplish your
Right.
soul's desires.
Right. And then having the balance on the desires. Is this really something you need or want? Or is it just
That's like a question I ask myself even now.
right,
Just this week, I was thinking like I went to the beach by myself and I was like, man, like I really wish I had my tribe around here. I wish that there was more people like I met in Sedona back here in Jersey. And then I had to ask myself like, is this coming? Do I feel like I need friends because I don't want to be alone? Or is it just a
right,
desire to have community? Sometimes you question yourself too much though. Like I feel like I do that. I question everything. Like, is this an unfilled part of me? And
right, right,
people are like,
right.
no, you just want friends, damn it. Stop looking for negative things.